I have just moved to a house in Bridge Street. Moved to, moved to, moved to. I have just moved to a house in Bridge Street. I have just moved to a house in Bridge Street. I have just moved to a house in Bridge Street.
Now, I wasn't able to get an exact location, but I did learn that Dr. Evil has moved to a new lair outside of Tokyo, Japan.
But remember this, Harry. This mirror gives us neither knowledge or truth. Men have wasted away in front of it, even gone mad. That is why tomorrow it will be moved to a new home.
You know that burger place isn't gone. It just moved to a new location.
You moved to a place like Pasadena to avoid stuff like this.
We moved to a small flat in London together.
Well, what about the people, the families?
They moved to a different place.
Should probably move to a nicer place.
They have moved up. They have moved to a higher place.
Sammy, why would you say that? Just Hal told me his parents argued every night. Then his dad moved to an apartment by the airport, and now he only sees them on the weekends.
Don't worry, Sammy. Dad's not moving anywhere. Now try to go to sleep.
A beggar knocked at my door. Knocked at, knocked at, knocked at, knocked at, knocked at, knocked at. A beggar knocked at my door. A beggar knocked at my door. A beggar knocked at my door.
She'd let a wolf in if it knocked at the door.
Perhaps.
I knocked on the door.
I knocked on his door. He didn't answer.
I knocked on his door. He didn't answer.
And I just want to thank whoever knocked on the door while I was in there.
Anyway, I went upstairs and knocked on the door.
Yeah.
No, a few days later. Meredith's work called. She hadn't showed up. I knocked on the door. That's when I noticed the smell.
I blame you for this. When you knocked on the door across the hall, you might have opened a portal to hell. There.
What are you doing in my bedroom?
Yeah, well, I knocked on the front door, but you didn't hear it.
I knocked on his door. He came out. His wife came out. And pretty much he wanted to kick me off his porch.
I knocked on the door.
He asked me for a meal and a glass of beer. 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 He asked me for a meal and a glass of beer. He asked me for a meal and a glass of beer. He asked me for a meal and a glass of beer.
Will you get me a white Zinfandel and a glass of red for Janice?
Miriam, be a love and give me a tea, 4 sugars. Oh, and a glass of milk.
I just need you to bring me some photos of Ross, and a small piece of chocolate, and a glass of tepid water.
In return for this, in return for this, in return for this, In return for this,
3 years in return for the rest of your life.
And what does Mr. Aruz want in return for his information?
NCE2 protection and immunity.
It's a lot to ask, Mr. Bauer.
And in return for this, you want exactly what?
Nothing.
Nothing.
So I lost my chance of walking on the moon, but in return for that, I gained a chance to, A, fly to the moon and perhaps be a member of the first crew to land on the moon.
And in return for my help, I need permission to leave the country on immunity.
You don't want much, do you?
And what is it you seek in return for such generosity?
Now, your daddy knows that what I want in return for all the help I give him.
And should anything happen to her, I want you to act immediately on my behalf in return for that. I will keep no more secrets from you.
That's great for all of them, but all of them didn't make a commitment to me in return for my help.
I don't ask for much. In return for all those years I put food in your belly, clothes on your back, a roof over your head. So what do I have to show for it? Beans.
Got me a plan that'll make them say it.
And what'll you be wanting in return for your help?
None. I don't want none.
You're trying to get in my head.
I'm just asking for your help in return for mine.
Leave me alone.
What did George get in return for giving you your freedom?
Frank cleared my debt in return for the painting. I owe him a lot of money.
Be a Val. And in return for saving my life, I am your servant. Whatever you need.
Wings. And what would you like in return for that information?
I simply wish to help you do what you need to do.
You're good.
the beggar stood on his head and sang songs. Stood on his head. Stood on his head. Sang songs, sang songs, sang songs, sang. The beggar stood on his head and sang songs. The beggar stood on his head and sang songs. The beggar stood on his head and sang songs.
She takes off her panties, she leaves on her dress, and she stands on her head and she does the splits. You know, she's screaming the whole time, I want your cock, right? And I need your cock.
Well, let's just say, if I stood on my head, I would be a natural brunette with lovely breath.
You didn't.
I did.
He can get a conviction standing on his head.
I don't know anything, I never did know anything, but now I know that I don't know. All of the Christmas morning, I must stand on my head, I must stand on my head.
Well, what do you have me do? Stand on my head? No.
I'd make comic faces and stand on my head and grin at you between my legs and try all sorts of jokes.
He was so happy. He sang songs. He made me dance with him in the parlor.
The Chesters came over and we sang songs and...
Robert's not gay.
Then why did you say he was?
I didn't. Hey, you taught him all those songs.
What? We sang songs together. Somewhere over the...
Knock it off!
Grumpy Rabbit sang a song. Would you like to hear it?
Then he put a piece of cheese in his pocket and went away. Put up, put a piece of went away. Then he put a piece of cheese in his pocket and went away. Then he put a piece of cheese in his pocket and went away. Then he put a piece of cheese in his pocket and went away.
You see, when you use the silencer a lot, you have to put a piece of cloth here because it gets very hot and could burn it inside. A damp black cloth is the best.
What? He was trying to put a piece of garbage in our garbage can.
And then prove it. Where's the date?
If you think I can remember where I put a piece of paper in 1971...
One day she went away and didn't come back.
It was like a miracle.
A miracle?
She started getting better. The pain went away.
Tyler's not here. Tyler went away. Tyler's gone.
What? There's been a great many changes since you went away. Miss Lucas is married and settled.
She went away. She went away for a while. She left before this happened, I don't even think.
Maybe one of them ran off with someone else.
Maybe the feelings just went away.
And besides, you're Serena Vanderwoodson.
You didn't know me before I went away.
I'd say our problems actually went away.
What?
Later, a neighbor told me about him. Told me about him. Told me about him. Told me about him. Later, a neighbor told me about him. Later, a neighbor told me about him.
Well, how come you never told me about him?
I don't know.
Allie told me about him.
You should have told me about him.
Everybody knows him. Knows him.
Knows him. Knows him.
Knows him.
Knows him. Knows him.
Everybody knows him. Everybody knows him. Everybody knows him.
What's it to you?
Do you know him? Right, let's go. Everybody knows him.
What's his name?
Him? Everybody knows him. That's Tintin.
The rookie sensation came into the season unknown, but everyone knows him now.
I mean, does Bin Laden invite him into the living room and hand him a letter directly, or is Abu just the last guy in a long line of careers, and that's why everybody knows him?
That's not all you don't know. You don't have his real name, you don't have a clue of where he is.
Yes, but we know that he's important.
You know him? You know where he is?
No, no one knows him. No one ever sees him, not even his clients. He's old school.
So how come you know what he looks like?
Rumour.
Oh.
He calls at every house in the street once a month. Calls at all calls at all calls once a month. Once a month. Once a month. He calls at every house in the street once a month. He calls at every house in the street once a month. He calls at every house in the street once a month.
Maybelle has a request. Her beau.
Samuel?
He wishes to call at the house.
When do you want to do that?
When would it suit you?
It's Leonard Bast. I used to call at Wickham Place. Is Miss Schlegel in? Or Mrs. Wilcox?
They're all down at Howard's End.
I know for certain that on Monday, the day before the murder, a tramp called at this house. The brother's life is more important than the sister's story. I think we should call at Scotland Yard for Inspector Gregson and then go straight out to Beckenham.
I could not believe the outrage. This ugly man, surely a servant, had called at the front door.
Oh, what's at 8?
Oh, I have dinner plans with Joey. We get together about once a month to discuss the rest of you guys.
Wow. You gotta work out more than once a month.
I can.
Once a month, we get out to the beach.
When I was alive, my friends and I came together once a month.
What was that? Breaking muscle trips. Happens about once a month.
You sure that's all it is?
Service error. I'm sure as hell sorry. You know I am. See, I only get them once a month, and I missed last month, so it goes the roundup.
万般皆下品，唯有读书高。